Coming up on Front Porch Politics.
No.
Houses crumbling into the ocean.
And it's a crisis.
Roads underwater and closed for nearly half of October.
This is insane. There's 2 houses that just went down over there.
What is going on in the Outer Banks?
We knew this was going to happen. All the homeowners screamed from the top of their lungs to please keep the jetty system intact.
But the disasters that happen are not natural disasters. Those are human disasters.
A disastrous problem with no easy answers.
If this was an easy problem to solve, somebody would have solved it a long time ago.
Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Front Porch Politics. I'm Tim Boehm. So listen, you might have heard about all these issues with houses falling into the ocean in Buxton, North Carolina along the coast, and Hatteras Island. It's also been happening in Rodanthe, a little further up the coast. So we're headed out there to figure out what's going on. Why is this happening? What can be done? And almost as importantly, what else is happening out here that's impacting the people that call this area home? Life on the Outer Banks is a vibe.
Cape Hatteras Lighthouse.
The best place on the East Coast for surfing.
Culture's different, the people are different.
The geography is different as well.
The Outer Banks, the Barrier Island system, which is nothing more than a pile of sand.
This place is fragile. This place is wild. It always has been, and it always will be. And so if you live here, it's just one of the things that you accept.
But it's hard to accept a disaster unfolding in front of their own eyes.
No.
It looks like a war zone.
It sounds like bones breaking.
At least 27 homes collapsed into the ocean since 2020. 16 in Buxton alone since September.
We have to understand what the hell is going on out there.
They've heard the cries, don't build on the ocean. Why feel sorry for rich people with vacation homes? But it's not just the homes, it's the road as well, and a way of life threatened. And it's certainly not all rich people.
We have really good waves. We have some of the most consistent waves because we stick out in the Atlantic so much.
Brett Barley's lived in Buxton his entire life.
Over time through YouTube, I came to realize the story was far more important than how good the waves were.
He's made a living as a pro surfer and now as a content creator, showing off the Outer Banks to the entire world. But this fall, he's creating content he never imagined.
Where we're at used to be a road. So,
It looks weird looking at it, it doesn't make sense.
no, it does not make sense.
It started in mid-September.
I had no plans to even come to the ocean that day. And I came out with my son and we walked up, and within 5 minutes, the next house fell. And then it just was like one after the other.
A rapidly eroding beach swallowing up homes.
Wow. No!
One after another.
This is insane. There's 2 houses that just went down over there.
I've never in my life seen Buxton the way it looks right now.
Barley spent days uploading video to document to his tens of thousands of followers. His lens capturing history, his heart breaking with each frame of video.
My grandma and grandpa started going down there in the 70s, and they stayed at the Tower Circle Motel.
Bonnie Lattimore had to watch the horror play out online from upstate New York.
My uncle has a house like a couple down from us, and he has a Ring camera that looks out onto our little house. And we were following all this because we knew it was really getting bad.
She grew up in Raleigh, and her family built some of the earliest homes here. She and her siblings owned Dream House 1, which fell, and Dream House 2, which she's moving. Decades of family dinners, birthdays, and sunsets washed away in minutes.
And so to lose that house was so heartbreaking.
Another house falls.
Wendy Munden lives down the street. She was horrified how quickly the situation became normal.
My daughter looks at me and says, "Mommy, how many houses fell today?" And I said 5, and she goes, "Oh, that's not that many." And my other daughter said, "I expected more." When they said that, I just looked at them and something inside me just broke.
During our time here, perhaps the craziest part of this, no one we met was surprised.
We would expect some more to fall in between now and the spring when the nourishment begins, but you don't expect to have 5 or 7 or 8 fall in a week.
The other thing we heard over and over as houses fell one by one, we're the next Rodanthe. So Bobby, last time we were here, there were 2 homes here. You wouldn't even know they were here. I first met Dare County Manager Bobby Outen in this exact spot 2 years ago. It's steps from the famous Knights and Rodanthe house. It was here the area first made national headlines when houses began crumbling in 2020. 2 years ago, 2 houses were barely surviving in this spot. We met one of the homeowners. Do you regret buying this place at all?
I regret buying this place, absolutely. But I really like those memories that I had, and I am optimistic about the future.
Along the shores of Rodanthe, houses that once stood far from the ocean are now at risk of collapse, victims of relentless coastal erosion.
The county, so inundated with the issue, produced its own video to inform the public.
We were able to acquire those structures and demolish them and completely restore the beach area.
I tried to meet up with the National Park Service during our recent visit, but the government shutdown prevented it. I did meet with the superintendent 2 years ago. So are you guys coexisting at this point with some of these homes?
I think coexisting is a great way to explain the current situation.
Since that visit, Daniel Kerlakian gave up. The Park Service pilot program bottomed out before it fell in. And today you would never know those houses stood here.
We're at low tide right now, and so later today there's going to be water under that house.
A problem. But what is the problem? Why is this happening? It's seemingly so fast. All right, we got to take a quick detour now. We got to head to Greenville, home of ECU, and a retired professor now who's been studying the Outer Banks for more than 6 decades. He's got a lot of strong opinions on what's happening out here, and at times he's been public enemy #1 out here as well.
It took 170 million years to get where it is today.
In the attic of Dr. Stan Riggs' Greenville home, he's taking us way back.
So by 10,000, 11,000 years ago, it was probably getting similar to what we got today. It wasn't quite there yet, but the shoreline was rising.
Riggs first arrived along the Outer Banks in the 1960s. People differ on his opinions, but there's no question few have studied it as extensively as he has.
This pile of sand out there, that mobile pile of sand, moves with the ocean. It is what I call the ocean speed bump.
Find a weak spot. For decades, he has warned over and over about development on these barrier islands.
In other words, what we're trying to do out there is produce a Raleigh out there. There's every box store that's in Raleigh's out there in Kitty Hawk.
What do you remember the reaction when you were telling people, you were warning them back even in the 60s and 70s about doing this?
Well, they got angry. They didn't like what I was saying. I was an outsider to boot, and so I became enemy #1.
It's complicated to say the least, and reasons differ depending on where it's happening. In Buxton, homeowners believe it was negligence.
The engineering and the studies all said that this was what was going to happen if something wasn't done.
In the late 1960s, the Navy built jetties to help protect a now former Buxton Naval facility. But maintenance stopped after the famous Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was moved in 1999. The beach has eroded ever since.
We got permission finally to go forward with moving that lighthouse. The deal was that we would not take those jetties that were there out, because if you took them out, they're gone instantly. But the deal also was that we won't build new ones.
Around 2014, 2015, we started noticing some more holes in the bottoms of the jetty. The sand is always piled up on this side, so like as surfers, you could like walk out on it and jump off to go paddle out, and it was easy. And then all of a sudden around 2015, it stopped doing that. And we didn't really know what was going on until some low tides happened and we saw the holes down below the water line, and the sand was just seeping through. Oh, wow. And then so for the past 10 years, it's been getting worse and worse.
Why not just build new ones? In 1985, the North Carolina Coastal Resources Commission largely banned new hardened structures, and the legislature formally banned it in 2003. In Rodanthe, the erosion rate is nearly 15 feet a year for a variety of reasons: more frequent storms, rising sea levels, and that relentless ocean energy. Now, this is usually the point when you hear comments like, "This is what you get for building homes right on the ocean." The thing is, Bonnie Lattimore's grandfather did not build on the ocean.
It was acres and acres and acres with a huge path through a bunch of greenery all the way to the beach.
Check out this picture from around 1980. The lighthouse was moved back in 1999, so you can't see it now. But this is essentially the same view today from the spot where a family home once stood before September. Lattimore blames the state.
A lot of other states in this beautiful in the United States of America have hardened structures in their oceans to protect their shoreline.
So listen, it's not just about the houses falling in. It's about Highway 12 too. And in fact, I'm driving on it right now near Buxton, and sand is flying all over the place. When we were coming down here on a nice, beautiful, calm day, there was still water sitting in some of the roads. There were still bulldozers clearing. And where I am right now, I'm only about 20 feet from where the ocean is, and the sound is just about 100 feet in that direction. It is a big problem for the people that live here.
Frisco and Hatteras had like a mile and a half of sand on the road. It took them a few days to dig it out.
Closed road means no school buses either. Tell me about schools. What's been going on?
Not much. Our kids have missed a lot of school.
As you drive down it, you can see what we call hot spots, the areas where you can stand on the yellow line and throw a rock in the ocean or throw a rock in the sound.
There are 7 hot spots, and one of them in one of North Carolina's most unique spots. So we just left Hatteras Island. We are on a ferry headed to Ocracoke. Technically, this is still Highway 12 for the island. Now, when we get there, we will be back on pavement. It will be resuming Highway 12, the pavement version. And the folks there tell me the situation with Highway 12 there is a mess. In the 1700s, Blackbeard was a frequent visitor to Ocracoke Island. It's the kind of place where surf reports are a staple in coffee shops, golf carts are a staple on the roads, and gravestones date back to the 1700s. But this road, Highway 12, from the Ocracoke Hatteras Ferry Terminal to the village, is one of the 7 so-called hotspots where sand and water often overtake the road.
We're one storm away from disaster.
We first met County Commissioner Randall Matthews in 2023 to talk about the road and a tolling battle here that same year, as the state legislature considered adding tolls to all ferries, the only way to reach Ocracoke.
It's a highway, it's our road, it's our street. It's the only way vehicles can access the island.
3 ferries come to Ocracoke. 2 of them are sometimes 3 hours long and lead to rural North Carolina. The hour-long ferry back and forth to Hatteras Island relies on this fragile roadway. The highway's not just for tourists. Business rely on it for deliveries, and residents rely on it for health care.
What we have to consider primarily is public safety. Because if you have a heart attack and the EMS, Hyde County EMS picks you up, they got to take you to the hospital. And this is the way to go. And guess what happens if the road's closed?
This October, Highway 12 was shut down at least 12 days. So how should the state handle these vulnerable hotspots? That depends on who you ask. Professor Stan Riggs advocates for a massive bridge on the sound side, much like the Florida Keys.
It's cheaper to build in deep water than it is in shallow water. It's cheaper, it's better for the marshes and all the other parts of the barrier island if you get out of the way. And
So
when
just
you-
connect the villages essentially by this long bridge?
Yeah.
But bridges are expensive. This 2.5-mile bridge in Rodanthe cost $145 million alone in 2022. On Ocracoke, leaders advocate for an elevated bridge, a shorter roadway over the water, to put it simply. There's already an example of this nearby.
The Etheridge Bridge is an elevated bridge, and if you let the sand flow the way that Mother Nature wants it to go, you know, the sand will just push over. That's the natural flow.
We were really kind of setting it up for December and building on that relationship.
During a recent visit, the Buxton Civic Association held a meeting. Brett, Heather, and Wendy are all members. Recently, another member, Brian Harris, traveled to Raleigh to see state leaders in person and plead for help. He even got a few minutes face-to-face with Governor Josh Stein. Broadly, they want a state of emergency declared in Buxton.
How much worse does this get? We're at 15 homes now. Is 20 or 25 homes? Like, it's fully possible.
But so far, county and state leaders say it won't help.
Those statutes in the law are ways to access resources to help with recovery. And there aren't resources associated with that to move houses or to build beaches or to do the things that solve these problems.
Beach nourishment, or building up the beach by adding sand, is a solution, although in many ways it's just a Band-Aid.
These beach renourishment projects are great until the next hurricane, because we have no jetty system to hold the sand that they that they dump onto our beaches.
Buxton's scheduled for nourishment next spring, but there is no plan or funding in place for Rodanthe. At least a $40 million price tag there. Ocracoke is likely 2 years away from another nourishment.
Is there a bit of I told you so going on right now in your head?
No, I don't. I try not to do that. It's obvious. They know.
Riggs has faced opposition much of his career, largely developers in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Then he faced opposition to report on sea level change in 2012.
We finished our report and turned it in. The legislature changed from a Democratic legislature to Republican. They threw it in the trash. They said, no, we don't want to hear that. And they sent us back and made us do it over again.
There is a strong consensus to move houses in danger, but there's several obvious challenges.
There's only so much property that you can move these houses to, and moving them is expensive.
While there are some wealthy vacation homeowners, it's far from the norm in Buxton.
Our family, 4 families are splitting the cost of this, and it's expensive, and it's not easy for all of us to be like, here's our $50,000. A lot of people don't have that liquid cash to do that, but if they had the $250,000 from the insurance payout, they could probably do that.
The National Flood Insurance Program pays $250,000 to homeowners covered, but only after a home falls. North Carolina Congressman Greg Murphy wants to change that program.
So it's a little bit of a carrot stick approach, where we're going to try to fund it beforehand to either move the home or tear down the home. If they don't, then only 40% of that money is available to them afterwards if they allow the home to fall into the ocean.
In Rodanthe, the National Park Service bought out Daniel Kerlakian's home. It's part of a pilot program, but as with most things here, there's not unlimited money. But a small section in the law could lead to a big fix.
The motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
In March, Dare County commissioners voted to move forward repairing one of the jetties. I know the one jetty is going to be repaired up in Buxton. Do you think it's worth trying to push lawmakers to somehow change the law to give them an exception to fix the other two or add more?
I think it's worthwhile in a broader sense to have the ability to look at other tools to mitigate shorefront erosion.
Put the bridge back here.
In Greenville, Dr. Stan Riggs, who's studied the Outer Banks since the 1960s, continues to write books. And he continues to advocate for a more open beach.
You don't have to have it right there at the highest energy point. It's a matter of backing up.
But that's easier said than done in terms of cost and the economic impact, and for people like Bonnie Lattimore with generations of memories.
Well, I'm hoping and praying that there's a jetty system and that all of our houses are safe. If that jetty system doesn't get put into place, I'm not super confident.
Eventually, then, does this become a series of small islands as sea level rises and whatnot? Is that where we're headed for the Outer Banks? And how soon do you think some of that starts happening?
It's already happening.
So often when these stories pop up, there's a perception of life on these barrier islands that plays out online. Who cares about these rich people with second homes? And why do we keep throwing millions of dollars on a road doomed to die at the hands of Mother Nature? Bridges would cost hundreds of millions of dollars, no doubt. But the millions in daily maintenance, think of it another way.
There's the recurring problem of sand and water on the road. That's the equivalent of snow in the mountains.
And yes, taxpayer dollars are funding roads and potentially home buyouts. But the folks who live here are quick to point out they make taxpayers a lot of money as well.
Dare County's a $2.2 billion economy.
I would check your receipts and see how many billions of dollars we give to the state.
Perhaps most important, there are lots of people with deep roots in the sand.
The village of Ocracoke has been around since the 1700s. My wife's, both sides of her family have been here for more than 200 years.
Environmental disasters are everywhere. when you look at them. There's tornadoes, there's wildfires, there's hurricanes, there's landslides, there's, I mean, you name it. Why do you live where you live?
They believe their homes, their lives, their way of life on this tiny strip of land are worth saving, hoping for solutions, but fearful time will run out. It is a big conundrum that does not have any easy solutions, but something's got to give at some point. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, we got to continue on the road here to find more incredible stories about incredible people here in the great state of North Carolina. We'll see you next time.